Hello there. Welcome, Fresh Cred friends. Thanks for joining us. This is Ed Bertaud at Viva Fresh Expo 2026 here in beautiful San Antonio, Texas, at the equally beautiful JW Marriott San Antonio Hill Country Resort. I am now being joined by Mr. PJ Cawley. He will be our guest host for this episode. I know you're used to seeing Mr. Craig Slade over there, but Craig's not around. I'm going to say we've got an upgrade in the looks department over here, so we'll see.
I don't know if I'd agree with that, but yeah. Surprise, Fresh Cred listeners. Here I am again.
At least a taller upgrade.
And also over here to my left, being joined by Mr. Daniel Bell, Senior Director of Produce Grocery Outlet. Daniel, a long friend of the show, been here all week, right?
Been here all week. It's been a long week.
Ready to get back home?
My wife's ready for me to get back home.
Oh, really?
For sure.
Well, that's good.
I
That's
hope
very
anyway.
nice. That's sweet. How's? I'm sure you're going to give us a glowing review as far as the Viva Fresh has been so far.
It's a fantastic event. They do a great job. They've always done a great job with it. I think they treat the retailers, the wholesalers, and everybody pretty equally and with equal importance on the whole thing. You know, it can get kind of warped at trade shows. Everybody wants the retailer, and I think things kind of get out of proportion at some. But they've always done a great job here. They've always treated us well. They've always taken care of us. And being here and being around friends and people you've got these relationships with is always a blessing.
It's hard to beat for sure. Not all fun, though. Some business, right, PJ?
A little bit of business, yep. And that's why we're here, but the fun sure engages people.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, thanks for joining us. I've had the opportunity to hear you speak on several panels. I'm always impressed and engaged by your insights that you have on our business and what we're doing. I have a couple questions teed up for you, and if it's all right, Ed, I'm going to fire away here. All right. Well, Daniel, I've been in the produce business since the previous century, back in the 1900s. I started on the retail level as a produce clerk. It's changed a lot in the last pushing 30 years that I've been in the business. When I started, it was a union job. Journeyman clerks could buy a house, have a family, all those things. And the business has changed a lot. And with that being said, there's not as much trimming in the back room. There's not as much as that kind of stuff. My region, a lot of the talent in that age group that would be coming up through produce, they're doing tech. They're doing other things. We're seeing that lack of talent in the trades, whether it's plumbing, electrical, and they're starting to get some big dollars for those trades. Produce is kind of in the same spot. What advice would you give somebody coming up in the business to make it a profitable career for them in retail and something that they can build a life with? And second part, what advice would you give a retailer to cultivate and develop that talent internally and keep them around?
No, that's a great question. And having started as a night closing produce clerk with Vons in 1990 and worked my way up through the stores, through every position in the produce department, the biggest change has been, it used to be a good career, right? A good union job. We all bought houses young. We bought the coolest, hippest trucks and things, the toys that we could get back then because it was a great paying job. And now a lot of those benefits have gone away. And you see it reflected in the quality of help that's coming out of the stores. People aren't staying in it for a career anymore. It's not a long-term choice for folks anymore. You see the same issues in the meat department, right? There's no meat cutting schools anymore. People aren't learning the trade there because everything's coming in pre-broken down. As far as folks in the stores now, I would coach them to take advantage of any opportunities they have with outside help coming in their stores, whether it's through resets or any kind of shows that their parent companies allow them to go out, learn about the industry as much as they can. That was the biggest eye-opening thing for me, was the whole world that's out there coming from a store, which is your small little piece of the world you're the king of. And when you go out into this, it's really mind-blowing when you see where all this product comes from, all the people involved, the scope of it all. Take advantage of that. Talk to their bosses and ask to be put in touch with the purchasing side and maybe spend some time in the office with them and learn and try to get involved to get their name out there for potential promotions and to get into the industry a little deeper. I think if I was out trying to get into it now, I would tell the guys, any chance you can, get in front of people. Try to get into any kind of trade show, anything you can, because that's where you're going to meet people and make those acquaintances. It's really hard to come through the stores. It was hard when I was doing it. It's even harder now because there's less interaction. It can still happen. You just have to be really proactive about how you approach management and your career path that you want to get on, and opening those doors to do it. It's still a fun gig. I miss trimming. I miss setting a wet rack. When you set a wet rack in a department and it looks great, there's no better feeling in the world than that. There's no bigger satisfaction if you're a true produce guy. I miss it. It's not done much anymore. It's all pre-done and everything. But I still think there's value and there's options there. I think it still takes the right person to want to come through it and make it a career.
There's some great points, Daniel. I couldn't agree more with you on all of that. Thanks for sharing. And I had a CEO years ago that once said, no matter what business you're in, it's the relationship business.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. Meeting people, forging those relationships, learning about, the more you learn, the more you find out that there's so much more to learn,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
staying open to that.
There's guys here with Melissa's that were with Ready Pack at the time that are with different companies now. Some are still with Melissa's that I had relationships with when they would come in and set my departments, and I just continued to build on that and get to learn more about it through them and their companies that they went off to. So it's all the relationship piece, and the more you can branch out and do it, the better it's going to serve you in the end.
Well, thanks for that. Recently, parts of our administration have been talking about the benefits of eating fresh produce and how beneficial that can be for you, how that can replace traditional prescription medicine and other things, which, there's some, controversy around that message, but there is a lot of truth to the benefits of healthy eating, clean eating fresh fruits and vegetables. How's retail attacking that and using that to build momentum for fresh produce and capitalizing on that message to eat more fruits and vegetables?
Truthfully, I don't think we're doing a very good job of it as an industry. I think we're always going to be second fiddle to Center Store and the big CPG companies for the amount of money that they spend in advertising to get into their products. I think as an industry, we need to do a much better job educating people, starting with the younger generations. There's all the opportunity around QR codes and packaging and putting a story of a grower, packer, shipper, farmer, what goes into farming this product. Because the younger generations don't know what it goes into growing anything. It's not like when I was growing up when parents were growing product and doing all this stuff. Yep. There's a gap there now, and they have no clue. They want to know. All they thirst for is information, and everything that they do through TikTok and all these other things. They're constantly trying to learn things. I think as an industry, if we want our story told and we want to influence the way people eat and not just depend on the government to tell us what to eat, I think if we need to start planting that seed out there in their minds now and telling them what goes into it, because it's becoming more and more difficult to be a farmer and make a living and keep prices down. And every time prices go up, the first place they look is the retailer and accuse us of gouging. Then they accuse the farmers of getting rich, and we all know that that's not true. But nobody's telling a different story. All that they're hearing that from is the mass media and everybody that's out there. Nothing is coming from our side of the coin, and we really need to get in front of that and tell our story, because again, every piece of farmland we lose, we never get it back, and we're losing more and more of that, especially in California and Central Valley. And it's the most wonderful place to grow and the variety that grows there, and we keep losing bits and pieces of it because nobody's thinking long term and fighting back with knowledge and education and what goes into growing that fruit and how healthy they can live by eating that, rather than having to go to Ozempic and all those other things to lose weight. There's a lot to be said for buying fruits and produce and eating it and saving yourself having to go that route. If you think about it in advance or long term.
You were talking about education. I was thinking about this last week. I'm old enough that I remember if cherries weren't in season, in your area, you weren't getting cherries.
Absolutely.
Just the availability there is now. Definitely my kids don't realize that there was a time where It was a more of an event, I guess, if you could call it,
Yeah, well,
right? When you promoted something because you were only going to get it during the season.
well, think about this. It used to be with avocados, which is a pretty big part of this show. You could only get those when they were from California in the U.S. until NAFTA opened up the borders and they could start importing Mexican fruit
Oh yeah.
and everything that went into that. So there used to be these very brief windows when product used to be available, and now it's so cannibalized because of all the imports, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but all those definitive seasons are gone now, and some grower packer shippers have reacted well to it, and others are not. And they're wondering why their market share is suffering, and their commodities are slipping in demand. Mom comes into the store with $40 to spend. She knows what her kids eat. Marketing goes a long way to helping that, right? And it's a real issue.
Yeah, I mean, I asked myself, whether or not, how deep there's an issue, right? I mean, I would venture to say that produce is more fragmented from a supplier base than even CPG, I guess, departmentally. So then you layer in the international component. Now you're talking, from a cooperation standpoint,
Yep.
that's a huge lift. Like, where do you even start? And I know we have very large associations, not only regional like Viva and Texas International Produce Association, but IFPA and beyond. But I'm not sure I see a lot of traction there.
There's a lot of challenges to it, but between the IFPA and some of these other associations, a little co-working and a little advanced foresight and thinking about it might get the ball rolling. And again, we all know, and if you've been in the industry for a long time, that when inflation hits, mom comes into a grocery store with $40 to spend. She knows she can go into the frozen food section and buy a bag of broccoli florets for $3.99. That's 2 pounds. That she doesn't have to worry about throwing away. She can put in the freezer and she can feed off of that. When broccoli is $2.99 a pound, mom's got a choice, right? The challenge with that is every time we lose customers to that, they don't come back. They once they get into those eating habits, they don't come back. On our side, we all know in the industry that our fresh product tastes much better and is much better for people. How are we getting that out there? And we need to figure out how to fight it. You can all say, well, the retail has to be cheaper. What is the retailer doing? Well, yeah, that's part of the problem, and every retailer has their own program and margin responsibilities that they have to price and set their business up with. The challenge is, how do we educate them? And now partnerships with the retailers is a great way to start and trying to get that message out and trying to pull them in. But we just have to be aware that CPG has much deeper pockets. And when we start moving people to center store, it's that much harder for us to pull them back. We can pull them back on a hot strawberry price. We can pull them back on a hot cutie tangerine price. But getting them back into the depth of the produce department, the broccolis, the salads, and eating the depth of the department, that's the hard part.
Daniel, how have you seen consumers respond to the inflated tomato prices, pepper prices, quality that we've been seeing the last couple months or so? We talked about this a little bit in our last segment. They'll change their habits over pricing on stuff like that. Do you worry that people that are removing those from their menu or their shopping list, that they won't come back, or do you think that they're coming back?
I think they come back. I think it's slow. I don't think it's a big rush. Who would have ever thought that we'd be sitting here in April talking about avocados being stable and the one market we can all count on right now, whereas limes were $90 and cucumbers have been in the 50s, and it's just been kind of loony out there. They come back. It's not a rush back. People have pulled away from those for sure. I mean, you're seeing volume down on those items just because it is what it is. When round tomatoes are $2.99 a pound or Roma tomatoes are $2.99 a pound at a discount retailer, not at a regular market, that's a challenge, right? Mom's going to look at the bite-sized tomatoes as an option. Even though those were up too, it's still more manageable spend on her part. So it's impacted it. I think once things stabilize, people will start putting some promotions on. And the weather's going to warm up, which is going to help too, right? Because that's when people traditionally go into eating salads and things like that. So that's going to pull people back into it, which is going to help us out a lot.
Well, I've got a couple more quick questions. Doesn't have to be specific to this show necessarily, but in the last year or so, what have you seen that's been your favorite fresh produce innovation, whether it's a varietal, whether it's a packaging innovation or a way people go about taking something to market for retail?
Wow, that's a great question. It's tough in produce because pretty much everything's been done. Um, we're recycling things, but one of the items that stuck out for me in our business that I literally tried in so many incarnations with different grower packer shippers is the Persian cucumber in a 2-pound bag. Just shocks me every time. It's a top 20 item in our stores every day. It, it outsells regular cucumbers in our stores every day now. It's just shocked me how much that item is taken off now. Because I tried at crazy prices, blowout deals, opportunistic buys to sell that item for years and couldn't do it. Now it's just a staple, and we don't do anything with it crazy pricing wise or promoting wise. It's just on the shelf above the cucumbers, but it's just continues to build and build and build.
And it's performing equally across regions?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's amazing. It's that's the one that stands every time when I look at our sales and breakdown by items every morning. I see that and I still shake my head at it. It's just nuts.
I
Wow.
think that product has really been improved by varietals and packaging. In my retail days, it turned fast, and it was tough to get it out the door before they started getting slimy. And
Yeah.
they just seem to last so much longer today. And
The new
there's
bags, the graphics, the airflow through the bags, and everything has helped it a great deal. Yeah, for sure.
well, last one from me, really, and it's kind of a let's get to know Daniel a little bit better. What's your favorite fruit, Daniel?
Well, as an avocado buyer, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it's the avocado.
That counts as a fruit.
If I
Pretty
had
popular around here, too.
It is, and I'm playing to the crowd here. If if I had to pick one, I would probably go out and say the raspberry. If I had to ride or die, I love a good raspberry.
I would not have guessed that.
It's a good choice.
Well, speaking of items that there are plenty of here, I'm sure you had your own objectives coming into the week. Anything you could share with us that maybe you've been on the lookout for this week, or an exciting product or variety, anything along those lines?
Yeah, for us, with where our stores are located and with our business, it's a heavy lead into the tropicals, the tomato side, trying to get in touch and meet new folks with that, trying to reestablish some windows that may close. We all know there's turnover in this industry and people leave and you lose track with some suppliers. Tropicals is always a huge piece for us. Mango's the most popular fruit in the world, and it's something we do well, but I think we can always improve on. So that's always big for us. Mexican papayas, the maridols, we sell a ton of those, and there's a lot of good folks here that grow those and import those. That's always big. How do we build on that business? We've got great partners that do a great job ripening that for us, and so that we get fruit that's ready to go and ready to consume. It's a challenge for us on the shrink side, obviously managing that, but that's the best way to sell that fruit. So it's always those are the biggest ones for us here. The avocado piece, it's, we know who we are. We know where we're going with that. We know most of the players in that, so that's pretty straightforward. And then again, it's always looking to see if there's anything new, anybody out there that we make an acquaintance with that wants to build in with a retailer and get their foot in the door. It's hard to do it with the big guys sometimes, and sometimes that's where us smaller retailers fit in and can help them with their niches. We've done it with a bunch of folks, and we're always open to it.
Yeah, I've had feedback from retailers that have said in the past, and I'm not sure now that so many successful shows have happened and times, develop or change, I guess you would say. But the feedback I would get was that they would come here and make direct relationships that they would otherwise have to have on a third-party level.
Yep.
Would you say that's still relatively true, or was it kind of open game?
If you're a buyer, that is the core of what you do, is the relationship piece. You have to build those relationships with people you know and trust that are going to be honest with you, give you honest, direct feedback about their product, what they have, where the market's going, so that you can take that into your business and fill your slots and take care of your commodities. I'm not a big fan of text messaging. I'm not a big
All right,
computer email guy.
I'm writing a note. No more texting Daniel.
I mean, if you're trying to sell me stuff and everything, pick up the phone, call me. I'm a big conversation. I love talking to people. I love face-to-face stuff like this. I think it's very important, especially for our group on our team, who are all very young and learning. They don't have the background that I have. So coming to these things and learning, hearing the catchphrases, hearing the words, hearing the terminology from different grower packer shippers on how they do things goes a long way to helping them along their career path. And I think that's just a very important part of what this is. I know there's a lot of shows. And I think each one brings its own regional, value to things. And I think they do a great job here with Texas and with the McAllen and all that piece to it of showing the value that they bring, especially to us retailers on the West Coast.
Yeah, flavor for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, what have you thought of the food so far? We really try.
Food has been great.
to-
You guys, this show does a better job with the food than any other show we go to.
Well, it's not by accident, but thank you for noticing.
They do. Last year was phenomenal. This year has been fantastic. They do especially at the parties and the receptions, they do a fantastic job with the food. Every year, this one outshines the other ones.
It was a main focal point as we were conceptualizing early on that we were tired of having, we had a different format of convention previously. The typical, nothing against chicken cordon bleu, but hey, you can only have so much banquet wedding food. So it's really fun to work with the staff, the chefs at each hotel, and just watch their eyes light up when we tell them, hey, this is our business. We have, exhibitors, suppliers, sponsors. They have product. We're going to give you the product, and we want you to work with it.
Yeah.
I mean, how was that cheesecake yesterday?
That was phenomenal. I mean,
it was awesome.
You're giving them the best product in the world that they can use, and you're giving them a blank slate and saying, run with it.
Yeah.
And they do a fantastic job here. The food is just always money. And there's two things produce people like to do, and one of them is eat.
Well, speaking of food, lunch is served, but I do have one more question for you, I guess, before you go. Anything exciting at Grocery Outlet that you'd like to share as far as initiatives or programs, maybe a season coming up? I mean, really, there's no wrong answer.
Well, yeah, there is. And I think as a discount retailer who's always been center store driven, I've been here for 16 years now. We've always leaned center store. The opportunistic deal has always been the biggest draw into our stores. I think with some previous leadership, we finally started to think that, hey, the other guys are doing it with fresh. Maybe we need to look into that. And we've leaned into it, but never dove into it and done it the right way. Now we're committed to doing it the right way. We're bringing produce up front. So like every other retailer, it's the first thing that you walk into and see in our stores. We're bringing floral in and putting it up front. Again, nothing brightens the shopping experience like coming in and seeing floral and everything else. So yeah, it's putting actions to words and making fresh something we lean on. Our penetration in produce is very high, especially in California. It's the right thing. We've done it in, I want to say 75 stores now, and we're going to do it to all of them. The results have been amazing, and it truly opens up the shopping experience. They see our pricing. Again, it's how we lead, and it's how we're going to differentiate ourselves from everybody else.
These are great points. I hope the Fresh Creds listeners are catching that. Daniel's brought a lot of really good stuff to the table, and I think you're right, Daniel. Store directors, store owners, when they start seeing the quick turnover of dollars in produce, they really start to appreciate what a healthy produce department can do for the whole store.
Absolutely. The biggest challenge I ever had as a produce manager was I got transferred to the Mira Mesa store, and the store manager, my first day there, when I talked to him, said, "This is a meat store. You guys are just second place." So I took that very personally. Wow. And I was there a year, and when I left, we were beating the meat department like 20 grand. So,
dang.
Yeah.
Thanks for the warm welcome.
Steve Ficucci, great man. I love him to death. He was a great store manager, and he was very direct kind of guy. But yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun, a long ride. There's a lot to learn with it, and you learn by making mistakes, right? And hopefully people work for folks that encourage that, because at the end of the day, if you learn more from your mistakes than your successes, you're much better at it at the end of the road. And I've been blessed to be in an organization with people that have given me that ability in that time.
Very well said.
Words to live by for sure. And with that, we'll end our time with Daniel, but I know we're going to see him down the road again. So, Daniel, thanks again for being with us, buddy. Safe travels home.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
Say hi to California for me.
I will say hi to California as soon as my foot gets off that airplane tonight.
All right, y'all. We'll be back soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.